I'm just going to come out and say this straight off the bat. I think the addition of solo casuals mode is one of the best things they've added to Warzone in a long, long time. I know this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion and you might think it's a faded take, but let me tell you where I'm coming from. Let me precursor this by saying that I don't think they should ever replace the normal solos mode. There should always be a space for regular BR solos, duos, trios and quads. End of. Not least because casual solos definitely isn't for everyone, but I do love it. For those of you who've stepped away from the game for a while, in a recent playlist update, Activision removed regular solos in favour of a new mode called casual solos. This is essentially regular BR mode, but with 120 real players are swapped out for bots. So the lobby has 28 real players in it and 120 bots. The result is the game feels a lot more chilled and just generally more playable. The bots have had a bit of a buff as well, so you'll catch them slide cancelling and drop shotting to an extent. In some cases it's actually hard to tell if you're fighting a bot or a real person. They also just love to chuck random grenades. This isn't helped by the fact that there always seems to be a bug in the game where players' ranks aren't displayed properly, and so a lot of real players are displayed as level 1. Not only that, but bots also have differing ranks, so you'll see a level 38 bot or a level 45 bot. Not generally prestiged, so they will be pre-prestiged, but still it can get hard to tell. All of this kind of adds together to make it feel a bit more like a real lobby, inverted commas. The mode is genuinely great for leveling your weapons, it's easy to do the Warzone weapon camos in, and you can even still earn rewards to limited time events like the ballerina coins which are in this gameplay. All of this means you can work your way through the game without being sweated on from the moment you land. As someone who's probably played thousands of hours across the whole of the Call of Duty franchise, it does slightly beg the question of whether I could be considered as a casual player and should I be able to enjoy it. Yes, I have a good understanding of how the game works. I try to stay up to date with the meta, and I do watch content from other YouTubers and streamers on the game because I'm genuinely interested in it. I even attended the World Series of Warzone in London in 2023, so yeah, I think it's fair to say that my interest in the game is more than casual. But as a dad of a 2-year-old daughter, that time that I can actually get onto the game and play has now dropped significantly. I went from playing every night for 6 hours straight in the early days of Warzone to now struggling to play 3 hours a week. And this is the same boat for a lot of my friends as well. A lot of my friends have now got kids, so it's really hard to find a consistent squad that we can drop in with on the regular. That golden period of COVID Verdansk is definitely gone. So I would say I'm a slightly above average player with a KD of 1.75 to 2 KD-ish, so kind of good but not insane at the game. And even with that being said, my aim can be a bit whiffy at times, and I've always struggled to convert the end games into dubs for some reason. I also definitely suffer from the phenomenon that is Warzone rust, particularly if I haven't played for a while. I'll hop onto Warzone even after just a week of not playing, and I feel like my movement is proper stiff. I couldn't even hit a barn door at 20 meters. I can shift this rust and it does disappear, but I need to commit the hours to the game to be able to get my thumbs locked in. The problem is I just haven't got the time to commit to this anymore. Pair that with the fact that there are a lot of very good players on the game compared to when Verdansk first launched, and I soon started to feel that I was getting spat on repeatedly by sweats when I was playing solos. And being dumpstered constantly definitely starts to wear a little bit thin. So the result was I started to play less and less Warzone in favour of multiplayer. Multiplayer just became somewhere I can jump on, play a few games, and just has a bit more of that arcade feeling to it. Also, with SBMM cranked right up, I think my player ranking, just because of the amount of time that I have played, kind of put me in a bracket where I was actually genuinely starting to be out of my ability. So it felt like I was always getting outplayed towards the end of games. You might say that this is just a skill issue, and yeah, you're probably right, but I don't have the time to grind the details anymore. Plus, I'm 36 now, so my reaction speeds definitely aren't getting any quicker. Not only that, but regular solos can be one of the most frustrating modes ever. Just full of campers, sat in the corner, waiting to creep up behind you on the 5th circle. Bosh, you're dead. Not only that, but Call of Duty and Ricochet is really struggling to stay on top of the cheaters at the moment. They're definitely more prevalent in the ranked playlist, but you'll still come across wallers and aimbotters in the regular BR as well. The amount of cheaters in the game at the moment and over the last few iterations of Warzone do make the competitive parts of this game hard to take seriously. Getting walled in the final circle just ain't fun, and you're not getting that 20 minutes back. You do get the odd cheater in casual as well, but they are few and far between, and these people genuinely just need to take a look at themselves. I really don't see what their enjoyment is here. And I think this is where casual solos has hit a sweet spot. It kind of feels like we need this safe space to make the game fun again. Somewhere I can drop into, get some kills, way more than I get in regular solos by the way, and get some wins in while still leveling weapons and completing challenges. It's also somewhere you can use off-meta weapons to mix it up a little bit. If you're not using meta builds in the regular ranked play or regular BR, you'll probably get laid out really quickly by a player who can shoot straight and has an optimized 8 attachment weapon. And it's also just generally good practice for the end games, which, like I said, I do suck at. Even for the most casual players, you should really be getting to the 4th or 5th circle every game, unless you're super unlucky and you land on a sweat straight off the bat. The end games are generally always real players because by that point the bots should have been killed off, even though sometimes it does seem like they seem to randomly spawn bots in towards the end, but I don't know. The amount of kills also doesn't feel quite the same as if it was regular BR. Obviously I could drop 20 or 30 bombs in casual, which I definitely couldn't do in regular BR, but I do still enjoy those PvP gameplay moments at the end of the game. I still have to think about rotations, being stocked up on the usual bits such as UAVs, gas masks, and I still need to play tactically. I don't go into these just to run through the lobby getting as many kills as I can, although it is definitely easier to rack up these high kill games. It's just a really good mode to hone your aim and to warm up the hands. I imagine even the best players who play 8 hours a day probably jump onto casuals for their first game to get limbered up. I actually think the bots are good enough to give some of the worst players on the game a run for their money. So it still offers a good mode for them to get better at the game in an environment that feels semi-competitive for them. I know there's an echo chamber on Twitter and larger streamers who are pissed off by the fact that regular solos have gone, and I totally get that and understand it, and it does need to come back. But I can definitely see there's a large percentage of the player base that want and need this mode to exist as well. I also think Activision are trying to find a way to shoehorn AI in at any moment, whether it's the bots that they tried to put in Warzone 2 BR, which was a massive flop, or even game modes like DMZ, which was a mix of bots and real players. I imagine these games are a bit of a waiting room for larger changes that they're going to implement Warzone moving forward, however that looks. So yeah, casual solos has reeled me back in, and I'm enjoying the game more than ever. I just hope Activision finds a way to keep both regular BR solos and casual solos, because there's definitely space in the game for both. If they're worried about insufficient player counts to be able to fill all of these modes, then I think they've probably got a bigger problem on their hands. So let me know down in the comments below what you think to casual solos. Have you missed the regular solos? How are you finding the game at the moment in general? Hopefully you found this video enjoyable. If you did, then make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.